Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast, and this week a very special guest, none other than the man you see all around New England for many years now. Of course, one of the kings of hardcore here in the New England scene, Mr. Ron Zombie. Ron, thanks for joining us.
Yo, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, class of 2014. It's a pleasure to have you here. You've done so much in New England. You're one of the guys that are just truly decorated. Interviewed Slick Wagner Brown the other day, and I said the same thing to him. You guys have accomplished so much.
Walensky brothers, Slick.
Yes, absolutely. And you guys have you've done it all. So we're here to talk about it today. And for the fans that don't know you and aren't aware of your past, today we'll kind of give the history. So looking forward to this.
And before we go any further, I got to thank you for all you do for independent wrestling, because it's amazing. I don't know where you find the time or energy to do it, but from me to you, thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Ron. That means a lot, it really does. So let's rewind to the beginning. Growing up as a kid, when did you first discover pro wrestling?
So I couldn't sleep being in Connecticut, we got WOR out of New York. I get up and my father's watching TV. And I see this guy beating up what I assumed were 3 midgets. And I questioned my father. I said, why is this guy beating up midgets? And my father replied with, those aren't midgets. Those are guys my size. That's a giant. So there's no such thing as a giant. It was Andre. That intrigued me. I turned in the next week, and this is what completely solidified my love. I saw Jimmy Snuka take a pile driver from Ray the Crippler Stevens on the concrete. And I was hooked. I was completely hooked, hook, line, and sinker. They got me. They worked me completely. They worked me so much that a few months, they kept Jimmy off TV. A few months later, I didn't know what a house show was. I saw Jimmy Snuka say that he's going to get revenge on Ray the Crippler Stevens. The only way Jimmy could say it, at the New Haven Coliseum. And I'm like, that's 5 minutes down the road from me. It's going to happen here. Didn't know it was going to happen around the whole loop, but I was like, it's happening here. I got to go. Joe, when I tell you they never touched each other, Stevens hits the ring. Jimmy hits the ring. Stevens jumps out. They run around the ring 4 times. Stevens runs to the back. Jimmy sits in the middle of the ring. Stevens gets counted out, and Jimmy says, I'm not leaving until we re-sign a match for next month here at New Haven Coliseum. And everybody bought it. You tried that today, they'll burn the building down.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the way to do it, though. I always love the storytelling. You don't have to get into it physically without being excited about it and the anticipation. Let it build. And nowadays with pay-per-views and stuff, you'll have a big pay-per-view match, and maybe the week before you'll have the guys wrestle that are going to be wrestling at a pay-per-view, but they're in maybe a tag team match or something. And
yeah.
Just doesn't mean the same to me anyway.
No, that anticipation for them to get their hands on each other is shot at that point because you already saw it.
Exactly. So as you got a little bit older, still as a fan, who were some of your favorite superstars, I guess you could say, over the time?
So in the beginning was Jimmy, it was Andre, then it was all the heels. Loved the Samoans, loved Piper. Piper was one of my favorites, heel Piper. I was never a Hulkamaniac. Growing up in the Hulkamania era, I wasn't a Hulkamaniac, but I was a fan of my favorite wrestler of all time, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, my favorite incarnation of the Horseman. Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk, Abdullah, then Cactus Jack. Seeing Cactus Jack Manson in World Class Championship Wrestling, he reminded me a lot of Brody. I'm like, oh, wait, I gotta watch this guy. Became a big fan, became a friend. So it's funny how the world works.
Right, exactly. And now, when it comes to actually deciding, okay, this is something I want to try out myself, how did that come about? Tell us about your training and how you got your foot in the door.
So it was much harder then than it is today. There was a wrestling school in Connecticut. It closed by the time I decided. Mario Mancini had a school in Connecticut, and it closed by the time I decided I wanted to. He's open again now. But at that time, I'm looking around, and I can't find anything. And in the back of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, King Kong Bundy had a book. You had to write get the book, send him a check. In the back of the book, it had wrestling schools. And I'm thumbing through it and I see Killer Kowalski's School of Professional Wrestling. No phone number. You have to write to him. So I wrote a letter, sent it in. I get a letter a few weeks later with this number to call him. I call him, I make an appointment. I go up there, and the first day, just meeting Walter and checking the school out, I was completely intimidated because I see these two, what look to be 300-pound monsters, doing moonsaults off the second rope. I said, what the hell am I getting myself into? I turn on ECW TV a week later, debuting the Eliminators. I'm like, those are those 300-pound assholes I just saw. Thank
Wow.
God I don't have to deal with them.
Yeah.
And it was funny. Mel was there the first day, and he's like, did you come up with a name yet? I said, name? I haven't even stepped in the ring yet. He said, well, what's your middle name? I said, Peter. He's like, well, what about Ron Peters? I said, that'd be great if I was an 80s porn star, but I don't know about a wrestler so much. And, I started Kowalski's, and first person that he had me working with was the outpatient. And to say the outpatient wasn't thrilled about working with the new guy is an understatement. We became tag team partners and friends later. But in the beginning, he's like, oh, great, another new guy. And he's kind of just going through the motions. And you really had to gain your respect there. Like, they would try to break you. And I'd show up every week, 3 hours from New Haven, Connecticut to Malden, Massachusetts. While I work in a full-time job, 3 hours back, get beat up, take a shower, go to sleep, go to work the next day. And when the guys saw that I was doing it, they started, treating me better. And that's when I started learning, guys like Outpatient was there, Tim McNeely, uh, Freight Train Dan, who else was there? Just a slew of guys, and Smooth Operator. And there was three young guys that would sit there and watch us. I'm sorry, four. Slick Wagner Brown. Let's see, Jason Rage, Jason Rumble, Louis Ortiz, and who was Bo Douglas. They would sit there and watch us. Walter wouldn't let them sign up till they were 18. So as each one of them turned 18, they'd go from watching us to getting in the ring. So that was cool to see them just sitting there watching us, studying, then able to join the ring. And I was there with China. I was there with Prince Albert. It was a really good time.
And give us the kind of the feel. Let the fans kind of feel what it was like to enter Kowalski's school. The famous stairs all the way up, and how were you greeted when you would get there? Just kind of give us a feel of how your day would go getting there.
So it'd be a 3 hour drive. So I'd get there. Stiff from being in the car. I'm excited. Throw my gear on. And Walter was always very welcoming. Walter was a great guy. Like I said in the beginning, people are a little cold, but they warmed up, and I would try to be the first one in the ring. I'd try to be the last one to leave, and I just wanted to soak up as much as I could in the time I was there. It was eclectic characters. We had one guy, his name was Tony, I believe, would just do moonsaults to the outside of the ring. That was like all he would do. And I would just wonder why he was doing this. It was just bizarre. Then I remember wearing a Sabu shirt and Steve King saying, why would you wear that? That guy can't work. Um, Sabu could work. Sabu chose to do what he did, but Sabu could work. And it was different. It was great. It was, it was something I had in my heart for a long time, and I didn't know was going to be feasible to do. So I just took everything and I enjoyed everything. There was only one person there that wasn't the kindest to me. I'm not going to name any names. Only person I ever had a bad experience with in wrestling, honestly. Like, everybody's been super cool. Everybody, even if I had disagreements with people, they were just that disagreements. I just had one person that just always rubbed me wrong. And even at one of your Hall of Fame inductions, I saw this person walk to, I was staying next to Kurt Adonis, walked over, said hi to Kurt, and was like, I was even there. So
Hmm.
still kind of, but now I don't care. Like, I live your life. You don't bother
Right.
me.
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't even worry about that. So obviously we're going to cover all the different, promotions you work for and different places you've gone, but let's talk about the most recent place, Wrestling with Character. It's a new promotion here in the New England scene, and it's a unique feel, unique look, something different for the fans. Obviously, it's fan friendly, and the wrestlers that you typically see on the indie scene are now kind of transforming into different characters specifically for this event. You were a part of the battle royal. Tell us about that experience.
So that promotion was started by the hippie freak Nick Richards and Kurt Adonis, very, very dear friends of mine. And Nick contacted me about a week before the show. He said, "Hey, what are you doing Sunday?" So I'm coming down to your show to see Mercedes. Mercedes Martinez, very dear friend of mine. She started at Jason Knight School where I was assisting Jason. So proud of that girl. And he's like, "No, you're working the battle royal." I said, "No, I'm not." He's like, "Yes, you are." I said, "No, I'm just coming down to hang out." He's like, "No, no, you're in the battle royal." Like, he's like, "Come on, I'm the only veteran that's going to be in there. Just come in there with me." All right. Next thing I know, I'm loading my boots up. Luckily, I got to keep my name. Initially, they contacted me when they were first starting and threw one of those crazy characters at me. And as much as I love those guys, I had to say no. They wanted me to be a wizard. Like, I'm not Oz. And, any bump I take now could possibly be my last. I've been doing this 20, almost 28 years, and I don't want my last bump to not be Ron Zombie. So when he asked me, I said, "I'm going to be Ron Zombie, right?" He's like, "Yep, you're going to be Ron Zombie." I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And it was fun. They run a good locker room, a bunch of good kids working for them. They really cater to the fans. And something I was really impressed by was watching Karrion Kross and Scarlett interact with the fans and Killer Cross, and they took their time with every fan, answered every question. My table was right next to theirs, and they took time with each person that came up to them. And you don't always see that out of bigger name stars. They were really interactive, and that's the whole point about wrestling characters. Very interactive with the fans, very good to the fans, and I think it's a love letter to the fans.
Yeah. And I must say, Carrying Cross is and Scarlet. They're just like you said. They're top notch, first class. I just brought my son to meet them, Rhode Island Comic Con, and he kind of crouched down in front of my son, and he had a full conversation with him. There's a line to meet him, but it didn't matter. You talked to him for
Right.
about 5 minutes, and it was a great experience. And my son, will always remember that. So it's great.
He had the Mountie on the show, and the Mountie was having a great time. You could tell he was really enjoying himself. He was watching the matches. He was very engaged the entire time.
Nice. Now let's talk about Jason Knight. You assisted in the school there for Jason's school. Tell us about that experience and how that was.
So as a fan of ECW, there was three people I just did not like. It was Jason Knight, Stevie Richards, and the Blue Meanie. Three guys I love right now: Jason Knight, Stevie Richards, and Blue Meanie. Funny how things work from fandom to friendship. And Jason really was the first to allow me to be me. Um, my very first match was for Kowalski. I wrestled Super Bad Steve Bradley, or Mofo Steve Bradley, but he was super bad then. And he, he was amazing. It was such a great experience. I'm in the locker room. I don't, sit next to King Kong Bundy and Tito Santana, people I grew up watching. That was just surreal. And I see I'm working Bradley, and he comes over and he says, "How long have you been working for?" I says, "My first match." He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "What are you comfortable doing?" I said, "Whatever you want to do." He's like, "No, really, what do you feel comfortable with?" So whatever you want to do. Put a match together. We get to the back. He's like, "Stop bullshitting me. How long have you been working for?" I'm like, "This was my first match. I trained for 2 years before my first match, but it was my first match." And he went to the promoter and said, "Hey, give this guy another match tonight." So I worked a tag match with Damien Darkangelo against Mike Hollow and Scotty Tuhati. It was just a squash thing, and another team jumped him. We just walked off. But it was cool that Bradley didn't have to say a word for me, and he did. But from there, I went to wrestle for a company called WrestlePalooza. Tony Rumble was helping book that. From there, I working for Tony Rumble. And first, I was Nurse Zombie with the Outpatient. Then I morphed into the tag team I was doing in Connecticut with Curtis Slam Dog as part of the New York Posse. But it was Jason who let me bloom into Ron Zombie. What I saw, my vision of Ron Zombie, Jason gave me that freedom to explore it and nurture it. And I can't ever thank him enough. I learned so much from him. He would bring in guys like, all ECW guys, Balls Mahoney, who I tagged with and I feuded with for years, and I learned so much from him. And as like Kid Cash and Jazz and Just Incredible, who despite any Cody's interactions with just incredible. You can't take the man's talent away from him. He's incredibly talented, and Jason gave me that opportunity to learn from all these greats. New Jack, Sandman, he put me in the ring with everybody. Anybody, any name he brought in, he put me in the ring with him.
What memories do you have of your interactions with the Boston Bad Boy, Tony Rumble?
Besides getting hit with that damn hitting helmet, Tony gave so many of us misfits a home and a platform, and he was kind, he was funny until he got in the ring. He hit you with the helmet, but other than that, he took all of us under his wing and gave us home. Um, like I said, funny guy, uh, talented guy, just saw something in everyone and gave everyone a chance. It didn't matter if he was a month's training, years training. Guys like Tony DeVito were coming in from New York to work his TV tapings, just because Tony's reputation. That's where I first met DeVito, and Tony was great. I can't say enough good about my experiences with from CWA to NWA New England. It was fantastic. He was such a good man. It shattered New England wrestling when he passed because so many things splintered off. I'm not talking to this one. I'm not doing business with this one. It's everybody was together, just melted away.
Hypothetical. If we never lost Steve Bradley, if we never lost Tony Rumble, what do you think they would be doing today? How would they have adapted to the current era of wrestling?
I think what Tony was doing was modern, and he would have stayed with. He would still have the biggest promotion in New England, I believe, and he would be picking the best talent from around New England to go work for him. Bradley was just so good, and I have no idea why he wasn't on TV weekly because he was that good. I think he would still be thriving with his school. I think he would still have a really good career from AEW, TNA. He would be somewhere because I don't know why WWE would not utilize him. He was so good.
Kurt Adonis, obviously, like you mentioned, one of your close personal friends, but share some memories of Kurt over the years in the world of wrestling.
So Kurt started out as a fan. He has a picture on his refrigerator of he and I from a Connecticut Championship Wrestling show, I believe, or it could have been a Rumble show, honestly. On his refrigerator of me and him as a fan. And one of the first times I remember seeing him in the ring, a wrestler was taking advantage of him. He was green, he was new, and this guy was just beating the dog snot out of him. I'm watching this, and that's not my style. That's not what I believe in. Now I'm getting hot. Curtis Slam Dog and Mercenary see me getting hot. Now they're getting hot. And the promoter, I said, this doesn't end. Now I'm going out to the ring. Match ends, comes back. The kid's happy that beat up Kurt. I blast him. I'm like, this kid trusted his body in your hands. That's what you do to him. And I didn't really know Kurt from a hole in the wall, just a couple interactions with him. And that's where our friendship started. Sticking up for a kid in the locker room that was getting taken advantage of.
And the other half of obviously wrestling with character, Nick Barberry. Why don't you tell us about him, the hippie freak, Nick Richards?
The hippie is so good. He's got such a good mind for the business, and he's constantly thinking. He'll go from hating wrestling to loving wrestling, 110% in. We did a match for Holyoke Joe, and I worked for Joe for 3-4 shows. I was a babyface. Joe says, "Well, you're going to be a heel tonight, so your crowd knows me as babyface, but all right, Nick's going to be the babyface." The crowd didn't buy it. Nick was one of the only people I've ever been in the ring with that's smart enough to know to turn. He's like, all right, I'm getting heat. Let me get heat. He's like, switching. I became the baby halfway through the match. He became the heel, and the crowd was still reacting the same, booing him, cheering me. He was that smart just to think on the fly like that. Um, Another dear friend of mine. These are actual friends outside of the wrestling business. We communicate outside of wrestling. We hang out outside of wrestling.
And let's talk about Ron Zombie, the gimmick. So the gimmick itself, the gear, the entrance music. Tell us how it all came together.
So I'm training at Kowalski's. I don't have a name yet. And my friends and I would go to local bars that radio stations would host on like a Thursday night. and got to be friendly with the DJs. So one of the DJs would always say, "Hey, Rob Zombie's little brother, Ron, is here." Hmm. Then I ran up on a Blue Meanie one day and said, "Hey, I don't have a gimmick, but I was thinking about this." He's like, "You absolutely are Ron Zombie." So thanks to Kevin the Afternoon Guy from Radio 104 and the Blue Meanie for solidifying that's what I should be using. And I was always I was a White Zombie fan from 1990. Is the first time I saw them. Uh, they pulled up in a broken down school bus to Toad's Place in New Haven. No idea who they were. I watched them. I'm like, they're filthy. That's a girl. I was totally shocked. There's a girl on bass, and they just look like they just crawled out of a sewer somewhere. I'm like, they're really different. And I saw the video for Return to Planet MF a couple years later. I'm like, hey, that's that band I saw at Toads. And I just became a fan. I started. I always had long hair. I've always been, rock metal, and I always had long hair. I started growing the goatee out in tribute to Cactus, and I started growing out. People like, hey, you kind of look like Rob Zombie. I'm a foot taller, 100 pounds heavier, but I'll take it. And then, I became Rob Zombie, and I remember getting my first pair of gear. I showed it to Walter. He's like, I love it, but you should do it in blue and gold instead of black and green. I'm like, it's not really metal. But
Yeah.
Walter would wear blue and gold. So he's like, yeah, that's what it should be. But I'm glad I stuck with the black and green. It was a combination of, my love for Cactus Jack. Cactus wore the black trunks with the white cactus down the side, wore the black trunks with the green zombie down the side. Honestly, where I got it from, Cactus wore a shirt with him on. I wore a shirt with him. It was my love letter to Cactus Jack.
Very nice. And
Music,
when it comes,
obviously,
oh,
music's
sorry.
obviously White Zombie, Rob Zombie. I went through a few songs. I settled on Scum of the Earth. I started with Thunder Kiss, but ECW was using that. Then I went to Feed the Gods, and another local indie guy was using that. So I went to Scum of the Earth, and it's been that since.
One of the big promotions that you've worked for over the years, NEW, Northeast Wrestling. You were such a big part of that promotion for such a long time. What was your experience like working there?
So I love you, Mike. I'm going to sink you. Um, did not want to use me. Flato did not want to use me. Kurt would beg him. Kurt was his right hand man for years. Kurt would say, use Zombie. No. Use Zombie. No. He can't work while he does his bleed, because I was doing a lot of hardcore stuff for Jason at the time. Kowalski taught me to work, didn't know how to work. And finally, they're running a show at Kurt's old high school, Bristol Central High. And Kurt said, I'm doing all this extra work. I don't want extra money. Put Zombie on the show. Okay, but he's got to bring his own guy. He's not working with our guys. You're throwing me a softball now. Hey, Dylan Cage, what are you doing next week? If anybody's going to make anybody look good, it's going to be Dylan Cage. He can make a broom look good. So I bring in Dylan. I come out to a huge pop. Kurt looks over at Mike. Mike's like, we do the match, come back through Kurt. Mike said, what are you doing next week? So, and I've been the longest tenured in-ring performer for Northeast Wrestling, from not wanting to use me to making me his champion, one half of his first tag team champions, Northeast Wrestling Hall of Fame. Not bad for a guy that didn't want to get used there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we'll talk about some of your different opponents over the years. Memories of Brad Hollister.
Big Bacon. He was a lot of fun. I had another wrestler. Again, I'm not going to name any names because they didn't get along. Said, "Oh, Brad's not going to want to work with you. Brad's going to do this. Brad's not going to do that." We had a fantastic match. He, wasn't difficult at all. We get to the back. I said, "I'll be honest with you. Somebody told me that you're going to be difficult to work with." He's like, "Well, if I don't like you, I am. I like you." So, you know, I try to be the guy people like. I try to not cause any waves unless it's something personal to me.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was fantastic. He is so good. He's so talented. He's got such a good mind. Had a really fun match for him. I was really happy with it.
How about Flip Gordon?
Flip, I love Flip. When he wanted to turn heel for NEW, he requested to work me. He's like, well, what better way to go heel than go against the Ultimate Baby? And I'm like, I can't work Flip style. I don't do that. And Flip's like, don't worry. Like, I'm going to work around you, and I'm only going to do a couple of flippy things because people pop for those. I was like, good thought. And it worked out really fun, and I love that guy. I love him. He's so fun. He's so fun to watch. He's such a good dude, and he's doing really well for himself down south right now, and I'm very happy for him.
Then we have the Juice, JT Dunn.
JT. JT is one of the most respectful wrestlers I've ever met in my life. Anytime I walk in the locker room, he off his seat comes over, hugs me. Um, I'm so proud of JT's accomplishments from battling addiction and winning, and his beautiful family. Another one that said, you know, we're going to do this. I'm just going to bump my ass off for you. And distraction, death by elbow finish. He's like, you're bumping once for me. That's all you would ever need to bump for me. And I'm like, no, I'll do whatever you want. And he's like, nope, nope, nope. He was very respectful. I remember my favorite JT wasn't in the ring. We went out after a Northeast wrestling show. I wrestled Rex Lawless, and we're at a Buffalo Wild Wings. I walk up, JT's on the table, Rex, and MJF. And MJF says, hey, brother, were you the ringside photographer? Before I could say a word, JT jumps up. He said, who the fuck are you talking to? That's Ron Zombie. I walk in the locker room. I call him sir. And Rex is like, remember people were chanting zombie during my match? That's Zombie. I don't know if he was ribbing me. I don't know MJF like that. But every time I saw him since, I was like, hey, you want me to come out and take some pictures for you? But like I said, before I could open my mouth, JT was right there having me back.
And another great talent that you've worked with, Dan Moff.
Yeah. I've known Danny. It's amazing because I've known Danny probably, I'd say, at least 25, 26 years. And we didn't work until a few years ago. I don't know what fountain of youth Danny found. I don't know how he looks better today than he did 25 years ago. It boggles my mind. Um, he's so good. All that whole New York crew, Danny Moff, Steve Mack, Low Life Louie, my boy Homicide. They're all just that whole cloth right there. They're just top notch performers, top notch people. Can't say enough good about them. Danny had some crazy ideas. He's like, "Did you get a cinder block? I'm like, what do you want a cinder block for?" He's like, "I want to take the Flair bump onto a cinder block." I'm like, "You out of your mind? You're 50 some odd years old." No. Good thing that we didn't find a cinder block.
Right.
And he's amazing.
What was your experience like for Test of Strength Wrestling, headed up by Slick Wagner Brown?
Slick, like I said, is somebody I knew before he started wrestling. Like he would sit there and watch us, and Slick's always treated me very well. Anytime I went there, I wrestled a good friend of mine, Ryan Frost, who I met through the local music scene before he became a wrestler. And when he told me he wanted to be a wrestler, I had the same interaction I had with Jim from the local music scene, wanted to be a wrestler. And I said, you sure? You're a little old to start. And both of them had the same, nope, I want to do this. And I gave my blessing from that because I was just worried. They're a little older when they started, but they both took to it really well. And I had a fun time working for us. And I would definitely work for Slick again.
Wrestle Jam, you would team up with Jose Perez, the East Coast Intensity, and Bobby Ocean to take on the Canadian Superstars. What's your memory of that match?
Not a good one. I was injured pretty early into the match. We had this idea that Bobby would dive. The heels are outside. At the beginning of the match, they do the cowardly heel. They run out of the ring, so Bobby dives. Then Jose dives, and I'm going to do a cannonball off the ring. So Bobby dives, they catch him. Jose dives, they catch him. I go to do a cannonball. My good friend, Jay Busta. I love you, Randy. I'm going to kill you. And one of Devon's students, part like the Red Sea. And poor Dave Cole, who was the farthest from me, dives to try to get a hand on me. So I do a complete flip, land on my hip, blow my hip out. I'm done. Um, the greatest in the business, Rich Palladino, runs to my side and he's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I can't move." My poor niece was 4 years old, sitting in the front row. I'm laying there, I can't move, and she's crying, and I got to convince her somehow that I'm okay. Rich gets me to the back. I can't move my left side. I'm completely locked up. Blew up my hip. Um, Accidents happen. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I've wrestled for WrestleJam plenty of times. First time I got hurt. And it's funny, I got a call from a promoter I was working for. First, are you okay? Yes. Well, that's what you get for working with these guys. I said, Randy is the guy you booked me with when I came back from knee surgery. Oh, yeah.
Jay Busta. I mean, he's definitely a respected guy here in the New England scene.
Yeah. Except
He's
for
done
when he doesn't catch me.
right, exactly. Todd Hansen, another great name of New England.
Another guy that's, I beat him for the Northeast Wrestling title by accident. That was fun. It's supposed to be a DQ finish. I hit him with my finish, go to pin him. 1, 2. His manager is supposed to pull the ref out. As the ref is being pulled out, his hand comes down for 3.
Oh.
And Hansen says, I think you just beat me. I said, I think I just beat you too. So the crowd's cheering. They heard 3. And Kirk gets on the mic, your winner by disqualification, Ron Zombie. The whole place starts booing. And Mike Lombardi panics, and he gets word to me, don't leave the ring. So they start sending people out to get me out of the ring, and I just keep beating them up. As they send people out, I keep beating them up until Mike comes out, and I get to hit the boss. Who doesn't want to hit the boss?
Right.
And it was supposed to set up program. Then Todd goes and gets himself signed. What a jerk.
Unbelievable.
I'm so happy for all his success because he worked so hard, from Handsome Johnny to
Yeah.
Warbeard to hard. It's a man his size shouldn't move the way he does. It's insane. Like, he is so athletic, he is so agile. And again, another guy I'm so happy for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hitting moonsaults and dives to the outside. It's kind of crazy,
You know, since everybody knows the deal on wrestling now. The last time we worked, promoter wanted a double count out, just us brawling back to the ring, back to the locker room. And he's like, no, this is the last time Zombie and I are wrestling. Zombie's winning. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's like,
wow.
he fought. And I was like, no, I'm good with it. Like, we'll just brawl to the back. He's like, nope. He's like, this last time we're working, you're going over. That's just he is.
Nice. Now you would go on to mix it up with the House of Pain for PAPW. Memories of that.
Yeah. Dredd and I, first time I met those guys, and they couldn't have been more respectful to Dredd and I. It was fun. That was my old middle school I wrestled in. I was like, I used to get in trouble for wrestling in here. now I'm getting paid to do it. This is amazing. So being in my hometown, being in my home school, it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with those guys, and they're really good guys. I'm glad to see that they're still out there doing it. And I'm super proud of the way Dredd looks these days. Dredd looks better now. Again, like Danny Moff looks great. Dredd looks great. I don't know what the fountain of youth these guys found.
Yeah. How can fans follow you?
I'm on a bunch of social media. I'm on Facebook under my real name, Ron Solentano. I'm on Instagram, Ron Zombie 34. Cats are on Instagram, Monster Maine Coons. I have a Twitter I hardly ever use. I think that's Ron Zombie 34 as well. 34 is for Charles Barkley. Every time I can't get Ron Zombie for something, I throw the number 34 in there for my favorite athlete, Charles Barkley.
Very nice. Well, when it comes to the fans, do you have a fan interaction that sticks out over the years more than the other?
Always spending time with my friend Lexi. Lexi has brittle bone disease. She's fine with a wheelchair. Spitfire of a kid. Every time I see her, it's always fun. She's always fired up. Always enjoy spending time with her. She's a big Flip fan, so I always got to tell her, like, they would do a motorcycle ride for Lexi. I would go there every time, and I'd say, hey, look, I'm here on my motorcycle. Where's Flip? So I got to stick to her, like, I'm your favorite. He's not.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to New England wrestling, another person that you mentioned, just one of the greats here in the New England scene and all around, Dylan Cage. Your memories of him?
So a friend of mine named Jay Wood said, I'm going down to North Carolina for a little while, try some more wrestling down there, get out of Connecticut. He calls me a few weeks later and says, you won't believe this kid I found. He is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He could wrestle. He could do hardcore. He could do this. He could do that. He could do that. He's the Vegematic. He could do it all. I'm like, yeah, everybody says everybody can do everything. So off the bat, I didn't like him. And they came up to ECW show. It was in Danbury. Um, I kind of blew off Dylan because Jay Wood put him over so highly. I'm like, ah, whatever. I kind of kayfabed him. And Jason opens the school a few weeks later. And he met Dylan in the ring before I did. So I called Jason. I said, "How is this kid?" He's like, "Everything Wood said and then some." I was like, hear that from Jason? I'm like, really? He's like, "Yeah, he's that good." I get down there, get the ring with him. I'm like, "This kid's amazing." And every promoter I was working for, I'd say, "Book him, book him, book him." And he started getting work steadily throughout New England. And then, so he was getting work on his own after that. And like I said, if I have to have a good match, one of my favorite matches of all time is against Dylan, the ACW Championship in New Britain at the Sports Palace. Uh, he could just do it all. He's just so good. He's fluent. He's how he wasn't on TV regularly. I have no idea. Um, Absolutely one of the best I've ever stepped in the ring with, and one of my best friends.
And where would you often get your wrestling gear from? The wrestling boots or
I always got my gear from K&H Wrestling. I'm not even sure if they're still in business, but I would always buy my gear through K&H. They gave really solid gear. It was a little more expensive, but it was always quality. Then I was getting my boots. My last pair of boots I got from R&D, I believe it was called, out of Canada. I don't think he is in the business anymore, but that's the last pair of boots I got was from them, and they've held up for years. They're still in great shape. And my shirts, I would just get whatever local printer. My last design was done by my tattoo artist. It's myself as a zombie. I was happy with that one.
nice? PWA, another promotion you go on to work for. Any memories from there?
Who did I work for at PWA? Who runs PWA? Remind me again.
Honestly, I'm not sure. That was the one organization that I wasn't too familiar with. I've never been to their shows.
I don't think. I've worked for so many promotions around here.
Was that Joseph von Schmidt or
Oh, all right. All right. That was Von
possibly?
Smith's. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay,
Yeah, I always had fun. Again, he was one of the Jason students, so I've known him since he started. He always treated me well. I had a match against him. They had their school in New Haven, and there was a little miscommunication. And I thought he said duck. I ducked, and I ate a knee to the head, and seeing stars. I was like, all right, get my bearings back together, and um, went on finished match. It was fun. He's always treated me well, and he's always a good guy to me. Like we we uh we were in Florida at the same time a couple years ago, and we were trying to hook up to see each other, but it just didn't work out. But yeah, Bunchman's a good dude, and he treated me well.
what advice do you have for somebody that's looking to get into the business now?
Study wrestling, watch wrestling, live wrestling, breathe wrestling. Watch the past, watch the present, watch everything. Listen to anybody that's been there before you. Take advice, find a reputable school. I was at a show fairly recently, and I tried to give to younger people advice, and kind of really weren't listening. And then I have somebody like Wrecking Ball, who's been wrestling for years, ask me, "What'd you see in my match? What could I have done better?" So it's just the mentality. Like some of the young people think, "Oh, I know everything. I have it." Somebody like Wrecking Ball has been around for a while. Would come up and ask, "What did you see in my match?" And I try to watch as many matches as I can when I'm on a show, just being a fan. I like what seeing what's out there, what's new and what's different. And I think if I could give any bit of advice, you know, I didn't wrestle in Madison Square Garden, but I wrestled around New England for a long time. I might have an idea or two. And I appreciate when guys like Wrecking Ball ask me.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Mount Rushmore a little bit. There's different ways of looking at it. Obviously, it could be personal favorites, could be most successful. However, you want to look at it in your Mount Rushmore for pro wrestling, for the big leagues, what would you give it? Top four of all time, any era.
Number one's easy. Number one off the rip is Ric Flair. There is no Mount Rushmore without Ric Flair. It doesn't happen. Um, you go with favorites. I go with Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack. You go with made that impact on the business. You go with Austin, Hogan, Hart, and I was never the Hogan guy. I never was. I always like the heels in WWE, WWF, but you can't take away what he did for the business. There's no way. He was wrestling. People didn't know wrestling in the '80s. They knew Hulk Hogan, so you can't not have him on there. My favorite, like I said, would be Flair, Brody, Punk, Cactus.
And continuing on with that, Mount Rushmore for males, strictly New England, any era.
Strictly New England. Um, Dylan Cage. I'll throw JT Dunn on there. He impresses me every time I see him. Every single time I see him. One of the best New England's ever produced. Hanson. And Christian Casanova.
Nice. Very nice.
He's another
Christian,
one that I would just, no matter what I was doing in an AEW locker room, I would stop to go watch his match. He impressed me every time. And he's somebody I gave my thoughts to on something, and he used it. He became a heel. He was still doing all his fancy stuff, and they're popping for him. He's doing all his big stuff, his flips and everything. I was like, Christian, they're cheering for you when you do this. Tease that you're going to do it and don't do it, and you'll get more heat. And he's like, huh. I tried it, and it worked. And somebody I just always enjoyed watching. Every time he was on a show, I had to stop what I was doing and go watch him.
and you go on to the CTWE, work with Bull Dread. Your memories of that promotion?
CTWE and Dread and I tagged for multiple promotions together, and it's always fun. He's another one trained at Jason's. He was always great to tag with, always up for anything we wanted to do. There's CT always treated us well. There was a bunch of promotions kind of mixed into CTWE. What was Vito's promotion? Was CTWE Vito and Lou, or
I
was that
believe so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So there was CTW kind of became more or less CTWE. Vito and Lou were always great. I tagged with Dread there many times, but I feuded with Brian Anthony there even more. And I remember one match with Brian Anthony for them. I'm running late from work, and he's calling me, we're on in 15 minutes. I'm 20 minutes away. We're on in 10 minutes. I'm 15 minutes away. I'm walking out to the ring, stall him. I pull to the back door. I throw some of my keys. I come in through the front door, right to the ring. Never discussed any part of a match, but we wrestled each other so many times. We just went right into a match right from me coming through the crowd.
Yeah.
Guy, like I said, wrestled for CTWE, for NEW, for multiple promotions. I think I wrestled Brian Anthony more than I wrestled anybody.
And Brian Anthony, specifically in Northeast Wrestling, created such a great name for himself. I feel like he was, one of the top guys there for a long time, and really made a name for himself. It would have been nice to maybe see him branch off and do a little bit more outside of Northeast Wrestling.
Absolutely. I tried. I tried to have him work some other shows, but in his real life, he is busy, and he was always leery about working for other promoters. He got burned a few times, so he was always leery. But I think if he reached out and worked elsewhere, he would have went a lot farther.
Yeah.
What he did in NEW was great. Top guy for a long time, but I think he had so much more potential that he could have used. And he just had recently had neck surgery, and he looks fantastic. He's jacked again, contemplating working again. I don't think it's a great idea, but that's his call to make.
Yeah. TRP, Top Rope Promotions. You'd go on to work one-on-one with Brutal Bob Evans. What was that experience like?
So that's another guy I've known forever, and it was the first time we stepped foot in the ring together. That was Wilkett Fair in Wilkett, Connecticut. Bob is so smart. Bob is so smart. He came out. He came down the ring, two other guys, and outside interference, and Bob just is a ring general. Like, match was fun. Match, you can't have a bad match with Bob. But I'm shocked it took that long to actually get in the ring with him.
PGW took on Anthony Battle, another promotion you've worked for there. Memories of Anthony.
Um, PGW, that was Vito's promotion. CTWE was, and they're kind of almost
The
like the
other way
same
around.
promotion. Yeah, they're kind of like the same promotion. Um, love Anthony Battle. Love Anthony Battle to death. Gave him his first hardcore match, and he was scared to death. After the match, he's like, "Wow, that's easier than wrestling." I'm like, "Yeah, you do it right, sure is."
Yeah.
I see Anthony almost every day, so he's another one I'm a big fan of. I wish he would get back in the ring. He gets himself in great shape to not wrestle. Come on, dude.
Right. And all the promotions you've worked for here in New England, and then all the traveling you've done on top of that. When it comes to venues, what is your favorite venue or a couple favorite venues that you've worked in?
Obviously, for Northeast Wrestling, Crosby High School, because we always have like 2,500, 3,000 people there. That's incredible to work in front of that many people. There was the Sports Palace in Britain, Connecticut. That was always a fun one. The ECW Arena, so that's the mecca. I wrestled the first non-ECW show there for Jersey All Pro Wrestling, and then I wrestled there for the Blue Meanie for 3PW for years. It's just always something special about walking in that building. Like you're on the Indies that day, this Madison Square Garden for you. So those would be the three definite.
Let's talk about the late John Xavier. John Xavier, somebody that you have obviously worked with, somebody you have been friends with. Unfortunately, we lost him too soon.
Yeah,
What a talent, in not only in New England, but everywhere he went. He, part of the Super 8 tournaments in Delaware. And I mean, just had a wonderful career, Ring of Honor, of course. Tell us all about John Xavier and what he was like behind the scenes for fans that never got to meet him.
John was a sweetheart. He could play the nastiest heel. Then he walks behind the curtain. He's just a sweetheart of a man. Lost way too soon. We feuded over the NEW title, and it's the infamous table wouldn't break. So I have a wooden table on the side of the ring. I go to do my implant DDT, the soul crusher on it. We hit the table. We both bounce off and hit the ground. We're laying there. The ref comes over and checks on us. And he said, "John said, break the table." It didn't break. It's not going to break. We threw it in the ring, tried to break it again. Wouldn't break, wouldn't splinter. But he was hell bent on trying to break that table. We tried several times, and I'm just, it's not happening. But he was game. He wanted to do it. And in the rematch for it, well, we had a hard hitting match, very physical. We both had some bruising. I hit him in the top of the head with a garbage can lid, nothing that I've been done 1,000 times. But it split the top of his head open. So I hit him with it, and I DDT him through a table that actually breaks. I just see blood splatter everywhere. I'm like, oh, I thought the table got him. I pinned him. I could see the cut on top of his head. And get to the back. I went right over and checked on him, and it was a garbage can lid that got him. It got me above the eyebrows. So we're both sitting there, look like we just went through war, and we're laughing and having a good time about it. He's just, it's such a shame. I wish he was still there today. He was such an important part of wrestling, and more important part for his family. That breaks my heart that he's not here to watch his son grow up.
Yeah. Well, he'll always be remembered, and I think it's important to mention people like that on shows like this because it keeps his memory alive, and people that aren't familiar with certain names, they'll be able to live on that way. So,
Yeah, and he's
uh,
another one from that whole New York crowd. The Homicides, the Danny Mops, the Steve Max, the Tony DeVitos, the Vic Hales, like they're all just great people.
BTW, big time wrestling. You'd go one on one with Mr. TA in a dog collar match. Let's hear about that experience.
Um, I'm not quite sure why we had a dog collar match. There was no feud, there's no build up, but first match, dog collar match. Uh, I like TA, but it was funny, seeing as seniors choking me. And he said, "This match would be much better if it was just you." And I try not to laugh. And it's I appreciate the opportunity, but it didn't make sense to have that type of match with no build up. But he did book me versus Kevin Sullivan, which was a dream come true for me. He called me up and said, day of, said, "Sammy, I missed his flight. Can you work Kevin Sullivan tonight?" I was like, "Yes, yes, I can." So let me call my promoter, and he says, "I'll call him." And they worked it out. And Kevin did something for me that he didn't have to do. He recorded a promo, said, if I was still booking, Ron would have a job. Say, Ron walks from the airport. He's a rock star. He's a wrestler. He's an axe murderer. He's somebody. You see him, you know he's somebody. And there's no reason he shouldn't have a job today. He didn't need to do that. He pulled me aside and did that on his own. Uh, he remembered me from the Rumble days. He used to come in and work for Tony. And we had a fun match. We went to a double DQ, and Missy Hyatt was in the ring, and I drive Missy. And I get to the back, and I check on her, make sure she's okay. She's fine. And I said, "Thank you." And she said, "Oh, that's only second pile driver I've ever taken." I said, "Who was the first?" She said, "Dory Jr." I said, "Missy, why would you let me pile drive you? That's a dangerous move." And she said, "Kevin said you were good." Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Wow.
Um, so big time always treated me well. I can't say anything bad. Always
Yeah.
treated me well.
Always had good experiences with Kevin. He was a great guy for sure. With the Fan Fest,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Definitely a good person. When it comes to a staple of the New England scene, for a long time, even into the tri state area, a staple of New York and Connecticut specifically, Jeff Starr. What was it like working with Jeff?
So I only worked Jeff once. I've known Jeff forever. And I put him over for the Northeast title. And we had a really good time. And Jeff was one of those guys that was so good, but he would get so discouraged so quickly. And he's all in, then he's gone. Then he's all in, then he's gone. And, he wins that EW title, and he's supposed to get a WWE shot. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but then he just vacated the title and stopped wrestling again. Jeff was fantastic, fantastic. We had a really fun match for the Northeast title, and I just wish he stuck around some more because he was always cool in the locker room. He was great to watch, uh, great to work with.
You would go on to PHW, Powerhouse Wrestling, Massachusetts. Any memories from that promotion?
Chris Sataro. Chris was a character. Uh, Always treated me well, but he would always tell me how Vince was afraid of him. He was going to put Vince out of business. I'm like, don't think an indie promotion's putting Vince out of business. But he always treated me well. He would leave me voice messages, but he would always screw up my name. Rob Zombie says, "Chris the Tower, Powerhouse Wrestling. I got your book with Scotty Levy, Raven." Call Stevie Richards. I said, "Stevie, could you reach out to Raven, see if he's actually on this show or not?" So he did. And that was, I got to work Raven. That was fantastic. You know, Chris always treated me well, always, except once. Walking out to a match, and there's two guys, probably 6'5" ish, 350, 400 pounds, just sloppy. And Jay Gillette, Kid USA, grabs my arm on the way out. He says, "Be careful. Neither one of these guys are trained." Okay. Go out there, and they weren't. And I had to protect myself. And I get to the back. I'm like I said, I never will take advantage of somebody, but if I need to protect myself from somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, I'm going to protect myself. I get to the back, I pull Chris aside, and I blast him. I said, "Don't ever put me in the ring with somebody who's not trained again. You're risking injury to me. You're risking injury to them. I don't care how many tickets they sold. They don't belong there." And he never did it again. And I didn't see him use those two individuals again either. But something simple is when I went to go shoot somebody off the ropes, they didn't know how to do it. That settled it right there for me. I'm like, these guys weren't touching me.
Right. Got to know the basics at bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's scary. Man, favorite stipulation? If you had to pick a stipulation, you've obviously been a part of as many stipulation matches as anybody, I'd say. Steel cage, dog collar. What was your personal favorite?
Just enjoyed hardcore. Always enjoyed hardcore because it's such an illusion. Not to give anything away, it's if you could do it with selling properly, you don't need to kill each other. I watched a guy and Stevie Richards was on the show, and Stevie blasted him afterwards. The guy carves a horseshoe in his head, wasn't selling anything, just bleeding, and Stevie blasted him. It's like, why would you do that to yourself? If you're going to do it with psychology, make it mean something. So I was, that was my game. Hardcore. I love hardcore. Cage matches were always a little goofy. Um, Dog collar with the right person is good. I've done them with Curtis Slam Dog, and we've had great matches. Um, but yeah, it's always hardcore. That's my go to.
And let's talk about Stevie Richards. You've done a lot with him over the years. What was he like to work with, and what's he like behind the scenes?
Stevie behind the scenes is one of my best friends. Stevie to work with, I don't think he ever learned it was work. He hits harder than anybody. Um,
Really?
Gosh, I tell him all the time, I'm like, you're stiff Stevie. He's like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. And they were Stevie and Just Incredible were going to wrestle each other for TNA, and I had both of them. I don't want to work Stevie. He looks stiff. I don't want to work PJ. He looks stiff. And so one he was right, and Stevie, you're not right. Love Stevie, but he lays them in. He lays them in. Uh, I was working Crowbar, and Stevie called me and said, "Oh, you're working Devin." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You thought I'm stiff?" I'm like, "You just admit being stiff." He's like, "No, no, no, no." I'm like, so he knows. Uh, he hits hard in safe places. So, but I love Stevie to death, and I was scared to death for him when he became ill, and he's doing much better now. I just spoke to him the other day.
That's great. That's good to hear.
That he had a spinal infection that nobody can figure out, and apparently they got it under control.
Wow. So, when it
He's
comes
another one. Like he was like I said, him, Meanie, and Jason. I just, as a fan of ECW, did not like them. Then became three of my best friends.
right, exactly. It's funny how far things can go. You just don't see it obviously happening, but you're on the other side of the fence, and there it is. It all comes together.
Like, I had keys to Stevie's home when he lived in Connecticut. When he was on the road, if something happened, I'd be the one to go to his house for him.
Let's talk a little bit about Crowbar. Obviously, WCW, he was known as Crowbar. Before that, in his early days in WCW, he was one half of Extreme with Ace Darling, of course, working for Tony Rumble at that time. Let's hear about your experiences with Crowbar.
Evan Storm. I met him my second match ever. It was a promotion called WrestlePalooza. They brought Tony in to run the book, and that's why I met Evan. And we're friends since. And again, it took probably 15 years before I had a match with him. And I think we're supposed to have something like 8-10 minutes. We went like 20 something. And I get to the back of the promoter's furious. I'm like, hey, I wanted to go home a long time ago, but he just wanted to keep working. So what am I going to do? He's a veteran. I listened to him, but he was so good, and he gave me so much. And I learned just from being around him. I learned from him. And he's just another one who's just good human beings.
And somebody else you touched on, of course, Connecticut native, just incredible, PJ Walker. When he's on, when he's in a good place, let's hear about it. Let's hear what he's
You
like.
can't. I would always get asked the question, who was the best I was ever in the ring with? And it's tie between Just Incredible, Balls Mahoney. And I'd probably throw Homicide in there as well. When PJ is on, you can't find any better. You really can't. He is so good. He is so smooth. He is so fluent. Everything he does means something. I can't praise him enough for his in-ring work. Um, I really wish him the best. I wish he gets his demons under control because he has so much to offer, so much for his family, so much for the wrestling business. He just has some demons. I wish he would just
Yeah.
live the
And
life
he's
he's living.
he's got a great mind for it too. So if he is able
Absolutely
to
does.
clean up, it would be great to have him maybe in a backstage role or something like that.
So smart, so talented, and just he thinks 5 steps ahead. He's always on. Like when you're thinking a spot here, he's already over here, knowing what's going to happen. He's so good.
JCW. You'd go on to JCW, take on Nasawa. What was that experience like?
Again, I wasn't supposed to take him on. I was supposed to, I believe it was Pondo and Necro. I was supposed to be in the ring with. And Incredible's on the show. He looks down the rundown. He's like, "You're not getting in the ring with them." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "PJ, it's cool. That's who I'm booked with." He's like, "Nope." He's like, he went to the bookers and said, "Switch this around, put Zombie with me." So Sal and I started the match, and we went through the match. And Incredible jumps in and turned a little bit of a brawl, but I had no problem working with those guys. Just PJ would not let it happen. Just looking out for my best interest, I believe. But I appreciate that. I would have been fine in the match. I watched the match with the two of them. I would have been fine with it. But I appreciate that he would look out for me like that.
Yeah. DPW, another promotion that you'd go on to work for.
Worked for DPW for a very long time. Worked Louis Ortiz there. I worked Slick there. Worked Jamie Payne there. I worked Curtis Slam Dog there. That was a main staple. Um, we were supposed to have a loser leave town match. It was Jamie Payne and Nemesis. Nemesis was supposed to be leaving town because he was moving to Las Vegas. Well, a few days before the show, he says, "You know what? I'm not even doing the show." And we had it all booked around him losing and leaving. So Mike, God bless his soul, says, "Ron, you're going to lose." So great. And so I lose, and I'm supposed to leave the company. And my thought was, I'm going to sit front row at every show until I'm so annoying that you have to reinstate me. And I was going for one show. And Mike's like, "Well, I need you back. And Nocturne's going to need a tag team partner, and you're going to come out and tag with him." I'm like, "No, we got to build this up." He's like, "You want to work for me?" I'm like, "No, I want to tell this story. I want to sit in the front row and be such an asshole that you have to reinstate me at some point. I don't want to come miss one show and then, hey, I'm back for no reason." It ruins me leaving. It's the only time I ever argue with him about my character. I would argue about other people's characters, like, "Don't do that. We had to do this." So, I'd butt heads with Mike about other characters, but this first time for myself, I didn't want to come back that quickly. I wanted to just be annoying, annoying, annoying. You know what? We're tired of you being here, buying a ticket every week. You're back.
Yeah.
But I've known Mike since the day he started. And, he loved wrestling. It was fun working for him.
What would you say is the greatest challenge of being a part of the pro wrestling world?
Greatest challenge. It takes a lot of hard work. Not everybody can do it. It's not meant for everyone. Uh, the miles on the road, the time away from friends and family. Uh, you're hurt. You got to get up and do it. I get hurt in a match on a Sunday. I got to work on Monday. It's the wear and tear on your body. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love it. I still love it. I'm still keeping myself active. Not as much as previously, but I'm still not done yet.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Now, when it comes to female wrestling, what would your Mount Rushmore, New England specific female end of things be?
Number one, Mercedes Martinez. Number one. Number two, Velvet Sky. I'm partial. Mercedes and Velvet trained with us. Very partial. Anna, number three. And see, who would I give? So there's a lot of really good talent that I worked with. Bro, all right, it's New England. Nick Rocks.
Nice. Yep. Wow. It's a good lineup right there.
And an honorable mention to April, obviously. April Hunter. I got to throw her in there too.
Sure. Absolutely.
Mercedes is like Flair's number one for men. Mercedes number one for New England women, without a doubt.
So when it
She
comes to
came in
oh, sorry, go ahead.
quickly. She came into Jason's school. She said, "I don't want to be trained like a girl. Train me like one of the guys. If you're going to hit them, hit me." And she just, I think She was under 6 months before she had her first match. She just took to it like a fish to water. She was so good. He is so good.
When it comes to marketing yourself, what advice do you have to new wrestlers that are, just kind of looking to get their name out there? They're already in the business, but they're trying to market themselves. They don't know how to go about it.
It's a different world now than when I started. Social media is your friend. Promote yourself. Show up to shows. Bring your gear with you. Introduce yourself to promoters. Get yourself booked. Get your name out there. Don't be obnoxious. Listen to your veterans. Um, use social media to your advantage. Get your stuff out there. Get your name out there. Get your face out there. Show up everywhere you can. Get booked as much as you can. Get as much work in as you can. Train as much as you can. Um, like I say, when I started, there was no social media like this. It was all word of mouth. There was flyers.
Yeah,
How often do you see a flyer for a wrestling show anymore? It's all online. But
exactly.
that I would, if I was on a flyer, I'd put that flyer everywhere. Funny story is Rob Zombie used to live in Bruen, Connecticut. He's in Washington Depot now. He was at the name of the town in Connecticut, but I would always purposely flyer that area when we were close, Woodbury. And Nocturne and myself met him at a show at the casino. And I was talking, he remembered me. He gave me permission to use the name years ago. And the guitar player at the time, John Five, said, "Oh, is that the guy's flyers we saw?" So I knew it worked. I knew
Wow.
it's potentially like, hey, John Five saw him, so other people saw him. But yeah, get your name out there, get your face out there, be cool to the fans because they're the ones paying tickets to see you. Do not treat the fans poorly. They're the ones that are buying your tickets. They're the ones buying your merch. Somebody wants a picture, take a picture. When somebody wants an autograph, sign an autograph. Don't disrespect the fans. Unless you're a heel, then you have to.
Right. Now, all the promotions you've worked for, dare I say you pick a favorite? Is there one that stands out?
It would, you know, NEW gave me the platform to wrestle in front of the biggest crowds I've ever wrestled in front of. Winning the NEW title was one of the greatest moments of my career against John. That was fantastic. Um, but ACW, Jason Knight, allowed me to become myself. So it would have to be a tie between ACW and NEW. Um, ACW gave birth to Ron Zombie, NEW gave Ron Zombie the biggest platform to perform on.
What was it like being in there with New Jersey native Judas Young?
I love Judas. He's funny. He's a funny dude. Um, we wrestled each other in New Britain. I'm sorry, North Branford, Connecticut. He's like, "Come on, man, punk and metal could get along," because he's just playing the shithead heel, and she was the punk guy and the metal guy. Judas is always a trip. I met him at Gino Caruso's in New Jersey, and he's always been a great dude. I miss that guy. He was so fun to be around, so fun to work.
Now, I've got a two-sided question here. Top 3 matches, in your opinion, of all time, personal favorites, TV side of things, and then the New England side of things.
TV side of things would be Jack Terry Funk King of the Death match. Flair Funk, I quit. Funk is in 2 of my top 3, and I want to say Brody and Abby from Puerto Rico. I wrestled 100 times in Puerto Rico. I don't exact date of this one, but they were just Brody came out swinging the chain. Everybody's going crazy, and people lit buckets all over the place. Those, off the top of my head, those would probably be my 3 favorite. But the King of the Death match, I could watch that every day. Just 2 guys killing each other with psychology. Everything made sense that they did amongst all the plunder.
Right.
And Flair and Funk, I quit. It's Ric Flair is best, Terry Funk is best. And honorable mention, I have to say, Austin Hart, when Austin passed out from the sharpshooter, changed the business completely. Completely changed the business. Made the heel the babyface the heel.
Absolutely. WrestleMania 13. Yeah. And how about on the New England side of things?
New England side, seen so many matches. personal favorite that I was involved in is myself and Brian Anthony, a casket match with Jeff Hardy as a ref. I love that match. I had so much fun in that match. I could wrestle Brian Anthony blindfolded. We wrestled each other so many times. Uh, Danny Moff winning the NEW title, that was a great one to watch. As a fan, just watching Danny looking better than he's ever looked, looking stronger than he's ever looked. That was a good one. Homicide's retirement match.
Oh
I
yes.
kick myself for not being there for it. I really wish I was there for it. But I went back and watched it, and it was emotional. And watching, somebody that loved the business so much having to retire, somebody that gave so much to the business and loves the business so much.
What was it like locking up with Len Oddity?
So, at first meet Len for an AEW show. AEW opened a school in Durham, Connecticut for a short time, and Dylan Page and I went down and worked down the ring a little bit. And the promoter comes in and says, I can see it now. You're a big heel, this and that. I said, I forgive you that you're new to Connecticut, but I could pretty much shoot a baby in the middle of the ring and they're not going to boo me. This is my home state. So he's like, all right, well, how about this? We weren't looking to get booked. We were just there to go work out. And they booked me in this battle royal, and it's a bunch of younger kids, and most of them from the New Jersey area. But I see Lynn Oddity, and he stands out from everybody. He's just brown. He's different. And I said, "You come here." I said, "I want to do something with you." And we work out this little spot for him and I. And afterwards, I talked to him. I'm like, "Where else are you working?" He's like, "Well, I'm not really working a lot of places right now." And I said, "Here's my number. Call me. I want you to come work in Connecticut." And I brought him down to DPW, and they loved him. They booked him a bunch of times. He's just a big-hearted kid, character, a complete character. Won't go over the top rope backwards. I always found that funny, but just that one happenstance instance that he stuck out in the locker room, and I just wanted to bring him to Connecticut because I thought he had a lot to offer.
And looking at your career thus far, if you could choose one moment, is there one specific moment that's your favorite moment of all time within your career?
You know, being Xavier for the NEW title when I won the NEW title was always going to be very special to me. Beating Dylan Cage for the ACW title was always another one that was special. Uh, those would probably be my top two picks off the top of my head. Just that feeling of we had probably about 2,500 people in Bristol Central when I beat Xavier, and just everybody on their feet. It was just the eruption was huge. I would say it all the time, it was one of the biggest pops he heard there. So that was very emotional, very special, and just anytime I'm stepping the ring with Dylan, it's always magic.
You've touched on it a little bit, but what are some of your other memories of Wrecking Ball Legursky?
That big dummy, um, he's got such a bright future ahead of him. He loves wrestling. He'll work anywhere. He was calling me, hey, do you know this guy in this area? You put a good word in for me. I'm like, you got a good name for yourself. You only put a word in for you. Um, he's got a great future, and I tell anybody I really do like him. But he's a big dummy. He called a spot on me when I was a heel, and he wanted me to do a walkout power bomb. Dude, you're like 450 pounds. I can't walk around with you. He's like, oh, I'll be fine. I did it. My legs hated me, but he's willing to do anything. He's a good dude.
Looking at your career thus far, is there a promotion that you haven't worked for that you always wanted to work for, but schedule wise or whatever it may be, just never came together?
Obviously, I always wanted to work for ECW, and I was on standby once. Promotion I always wanted to work for. You know, I, Other than that, I've pretty much worked everywhere I wanted to. I would like to have done the modern NWA. I did NWA New England, obviously, for years with Rumble. I would like to have done the modern NWA. Frankie Goodman down in Florida, I would like to work for him. But pretty much, I've been blessed. I've gotten to work top promotions throughout the Northeast, not only New England. I've been pretty blessed with that. I can't complain.
Let's go back to 2014, the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. You were inducted that evening. Take us back to that evening, your personal experience, and from arriving to the event and people you mingled with.
Um, Arrived with Kurt, my travel partner there. With you guys, I broke in with Curtis Slam Dog and the Mercenary. It's those guys. I don't think get enough credit for all they've done. The Mercenary was so unique. Nobody knew they were brothers, which was great. You got Slam Dog, the heel, Mercenary, the baby face. Nobody ever realized they were brothers. I didn't know they were brothers when I first met them. Uh, just the work you put in just shows. It's amazing that the effort you put in for what we love. And I was proud to be part of it. Very proud to be part of it. Very honored to be put in with those two gentlemen. Just getting there, seeing all the boys. JT I saw when I first got there. Uh, Jason Knight, and I didn't see Jason for a few years up until leading to that point. It was a really good time. Very honored Harley Race. Be put in class with Harley Race was amazing. Uh, just a showing of love and support for all of New England wrestling that night was just it was amazing. I was so honored to be part of it.
And I don't know if you're a foodie, but do you have a favorite food spot? You're heading to a town and we're hitting this town. I got to hit that place.
So I'm a pizza guy. If people go on my social media, see my new license plate. It says Connecticut the Pizza State. It's a Connecticut food share legitimate license plate. It's got a slice of pepperoni pizza on it. I'm a big pizza guy, and my favorite pizza is obviously New Haven, Connecticut, Sally's Pizza and Fuco Beats and Cheshire, my two favorites. I think Fuco's actually taking my number one spot, but going to Rhode Island, I always look forward to like a roast beef sandwich in Rhode Island. You don't get them here. Going to Philly, Velvet Sky and I would travel to Philly to go to 3PW, and we would always have to stop at Tony Luke's and get a Philly cheesesteak on the way back. Um, that would probably be my favorite spot to stop out of anything would be South Philly, Tony Luke's.
Any other memories that you can share of Jamie Payne and Nemesis?
I just saw Jamie the other day. He looks fantastic. He's a lawyer. He's into jujitsu. He's probably, I'd say, a good 75 to 100 pounds lighter than when he was wrestling. Looks in great shape. Does jujitsu all the time. He's a lawyer. I remember seeing Kenny Doan. He's just asking about the boys. I was like, yeah, Jamie's a wrestler. Jamie's a lawyer. He's like, what? Jamie, who's a lawyer? Jamie Payne. He's like, Jamie Payne's a lawyer? Yep, he's a lawyer. Still got scars on his forehead, but he's a lawyer. I've worked with those guys a lot. And for Jason Knight, we did a caged match. It was Balls Mahoney and I against the Mutilators. And there was going to be a fire spot. That's probably the only times I was nervous in the ring. Like, we're locked in a cage, and there's going to be fire, and things could go way wrong. Jamie already was burned before. Luckily, everything worked out well, but I was nervous as hell for that. But I've worked with those guys so many times. It was like mostly me and Balls Mahoney tagging against them. Uh, Jamie broke my nose. Still break his balls about that. It was always a blast working with those guys. They just Jamie and I both being the Cactus Jack marks. We out try to Cactus Jack each other.
And the Battle of the Cactuses.
Then I worked Nemesis with John Cronus. The last time I saw Walter Kowalski, there was lifetime tables, and Cronus wanted to powerbomb me, throwing John, it's a lifetime table. It's not going to break. Oh, it'll break. It'll be fine. Power bombs me. I bounce off like a super ball. Grabs me again. He's like, "Come on, we're going to break it." I'm like, "We're not." Picks me up for a power bomb. Falls backwards. I face plant. I went right to Walter. God rest John's soul. I went right to Walter to the match, and I was like, "Walter, I'm sorry." He's like, "Ah, it wasn't your fault." told the guy these things aren't going to break. He didn't want to listen to me.
Tony DeVito, New York guy there that you mentioned before. Let's hear about it with the experiences you've had with him.
Love DeVito, other than his bad taste in New York pizza over Connecticut. DeVito, another dear friend of mine. I talk to him all the time. So talented, so good. He would Another guy would just travel because he loved it. He would go, like I said, from New York to Boston just to do a taping for Rumble. We were uh, we were working for Connecticut Championship Wrestling, and Connecticut Championship Wrestling brought in a veteran to run the locker room. And he looks at DeVito. He's like, "God, DeVito used to be able to work, but you're the shits now because we were doing hardcore." Stopped Tony and I from doing hardcore and just started putting us in matches with like 4-way matches with me, DeVito, Slick, John Walters, and people want to see me and DeVito just hit each other with shit. They didn't want to see us wrestle, even though we could. But we're like, all right, whatever you want, we'll do it. And DeVito's one of the guys I've known the longest, and he's just a sweetheart of a guy. I taste of pizza, but sweetheart of a guy.
Now, you've worked with, obviously, like you said, Balls Mahoney on a regular basis. You've worked with Axel Rotten. You guys have teamed up, the three of you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Axel and Balls and what they were like, leading up to the matches, behind the scenes?
Axel was always cool. I didn't know him as well as I knew Balls, but Axel was always cool to me. Even as a fan, like Axel was nice to me. Um, both two gentlemen that should still be here today that aren't. Also, like he was amazing, so underrated as a wrestler. Like everybody I talk to, he's like the wrestler's wrestler. You know, Bubba Dudley, Stevie, like they all praise how good he was. I learned so much from him. Like the first time I was booked against him, I was scared to death because that was the biggest step up. I had Jason call me. He's like, "I got you booked with Balls next month." I'm like, "Oh my god, like do with this guy. He's gonna kill me. He's a Neanderthal." He was amazing. So good, so fluent, so crisp, took care of me so well that I'm like, all right, when we're wrestling again next month, great. Um, we worked each other a bunch of times and went into a tag team. We tagged for almost 2 years. And just, I learned so much from him, you know, things to do, things not to do. Cause I see some things and I'm like, all right, I don't need to do that. But, just, he was, when I said, you asked me who the best I was ever in the ring with, it's just incredible. Balls Mahoney, Homicide. Yeah, throw Dylan Gage in there, But he was just that good. He was I don't think he was appreciated enough of how good he was. Because just people saw him as somebody that's from the chair. You got to remember, you grew up with Chris Candido. You went move for move with Chris Candido since they were kids. Chris was tight and touted as such an amazing wrestler. Wallace was just as good. People didn't want to see him do that. They want to see him hit somebody with a chair.
Yeah.
Which sucked. Nothing sucked. Nothing hurt wrestling Balls except for that damn chair. Brutal.
And he had one hell of a chair shot. That's for sure.
Worst I ever got.
Yeah.
Everything else was fantastic. Took care of you the entire time. That chair, he called the spot one time. I had the barbed wire bat. He had the chair. He said, "I'm going to duck. I'm going to hit you with the first chair shot. Don't bump." I was like, "What are you talking about?" "I'm going to hit you with the second one." Like, "You're going to do what?" He's like, "Then bump on the third one." I'm like, No, I'm bumping on the first one. He's like, "No, bump on 3. Then we'll switch it. I'll have the bat. You have the chair." I'm like, "Well, if I'm not dead, at least I get to get him back." 3 bumps across my head. My girlfriend sitting next to my best friend in the crowd. She's just aghast. My buddy Anthony looks over at her and says, "Well, don't worry. You can't get any stupider." So I kind of lighten the mood a little bit. But then I'm like, all right, I'm not dead. I've got the chair now. And I swung for the fences and he didn't blink. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I can't even hurt this guy if I wanted to.
Right. Now you bring up Homicide. Obviously, unfortunately, you weren't able to be there for his retirement. Let's specifically talk about your one-on-one with him, MXW, memories from that night.
I've actually worked Homicide a lot of times. During the MXW show, he was actually one half of the TNA Tag Team Champions at that time. And Joel Gertner was running that promotion. And, Homicide came in and, my name's underlined. And I asked Joel, I'm like, "You sure about this? Did you talk to Homicide? He's one half the NWA TNA Tag Team Champions right now." He's like, "I'll be fine with it." And Homicide came in. He's like, "Oh, Zombie, it's you, so I'm fine with anybody else." I'd say no. He's like, "Do you remember this match with Brody and Funk?" He went over. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's go do that match." So we basically did a Bruiser Brody Terry Funk match. Him being Terry, me being Brody, and it was great. Like he had such a good mind for the business. He loved the business so much. He studied it so much. Like he knew matches verbatim, and we did a Terry Funk Cactus Jack match verbatim. So I've wrestled him, from for Jason. I've wrestled him in New York. Oh, he was just so good, so good. Like just complete gas tank, doesn't blow up, just goes, 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 and everything he does is believable. And another, hate to blow a spot from another sweetheart of a man. The notorious 187 is a very kind, giving person. Sorry, homicide.
And you mentioned the New York Posse, of course, and the Mercenary, and of course Curtis Slam Dog. Fellow New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famers, and such great characters, especially the Mercenary. And like you said, just a unique twist on pro wrestling. It was a great feel when he would come out and his promos. He had some really cool stuff going on. Why don't you go a little deeper on those two individuals and some stories you could tell?
So when I first started working, I worked for a company, WrestlePalooza, and I would see these two guys beat the hell out of each other, and got to be friendly with them. And they said, then I found out they were brothers, which was completely shocking. They don't look anything alike, but they both look like their father somehow. And they said, "Would you like to come to Vermont with us? Our cousin runs a promotion in Vermont. Get you booked up there." I said, "Great." And that's kind of how New York Posse thing started. And like I said, the mercenary was so unique. He legitimately spent 4 years in the military. So he legitimately has a military background. So he incorporated it into his character. And it was so different from everything else going on there because, like, anytime it was a military character, it'd be like a Sergeant Slaughter, a Corporal Pershing. There was no like twist on the character like that, like he would do. And he was fearless. He was fearless. Like, idea popped in his head. Hey, look at that. I'm going to dive off of that balcony. You guys are going to catch me. We're going to do what? Yeah, it'll be all right. He just, no fear. It just, had such good mind, had such good ideas. And me and Slam Dog would be there to catch him.
Yeah. Let's take a moment and remember Dan Quirk. Dan Quirk, who, of course, wrestled as Spider here in the New England scene. He was only 19 years old when he passed away. Tragic accident. I was actually the ring announcer that evening. And, he was such a great talent at such a young age. There was so much potential. And even beyond that, he was such a good guy.
Such a good kid. Such a
Yeah.
good kid.
Tell us about your experiences with Spider.
I met him through Bulldog Belansky, who was really big on Spider, and we became friends. Him, uh, he just, I won't forget where I was. I was leaving Twin Pines Diner in East Haven, Connecticut. I just got in my car, and Bulldog Belansky's calling me. I'm like, "This is weird. This is a little late at night for him to be calling me." He's in tears. He's like, "Danny just died." I had to pull off. I had to pull over to the side of the room. Like, "What are you talking about?" And he told me what happened. And I just had to sit there on the side of the road and try to comprehend what I just heard. It's the risk we all take. Uh, so I tell guys, don't do spots you're not comfortable with. Just you know, backpedaling till my last match. I watched a guy take a spot that I knew he wasn't comfortable with, and he could have got hurt. And I told him, I'm like, if you're not comfortable, say no, because it's not worth injury. He's like, "Oh no, I was okay. I was okay." I'm like, and somebody he trains with came over and thank you, because he doesn't listen and he does stuff that's reckless and he gets scared at the last minute. I'm not saying that can't put blame on anything. It was an accident. It was a horrible accident. And, he was definitely missed sorely.
Yeah. For fans that didn't know him or weren't familiar with him, how do you think that Dan Quirk should be remembered here in the wrestling scene?
Kid that loved wrestling and loved to entertain and loved fans and would do anything to be out there. His family did not love that he loved wrestling. Can't blame him. And he wanted to be on every show he could be on. He wanted to entertain everybody he could. He wanted to go out there and work his ass off, and he did that every night he was out there.
I remember Dan doing moonsaults off steel cage in
Yeah.
Powerhouse Wrestling, and just seeing him, you know, always taking the chances, and it was, it always pay off. It was the crowd was so into it, and
Yeah, they
you
loved
know,
him.
yeah, he was awesome. So always remember Dan Quirk for sure. Big part of New England early on for his career.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Him and Nocturne broke in together. And Nocturne's still to this day a very dear friend of mine.
I feel like Spider, had he continued on, he and Dylan Cage could have had some awesome stuff together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's talk about ACW. You would go one on one with Diamond Dave Donovan. Memories of that.
Uh, Donovan was a character. Definitely a character. Yeah, he wasn't afraid to roll around in barbed wire and thumbtacks. Loud, definitely a loud guy in the back. But he wasn't afraid to take a bump. We, we had a fans bring weapons match. They had like the giant wiffle ball bats with thumbtacks crazy glued to it. I think there was a barbed wire Macho Man wrestling buddy. But yeah, he wasn't afraid to get in there and bleed.
And you also went on to Green Mountain Wrestling, another promotion that you worked for. You wrestled Dangerous Donnie Rotten on one occasion. What was it like working with Donnie?
Donnie's the best. Donnie's a good dude. Met him through Kid USA, Jay Gillette, and they're good friends. And yeah, Donnie was fun. Donnie was a lot of fun. Green Mountain was actually run by Slam Dog Mercenaries' cousin Gary Langevin, and that's where they brought me into. And Donnie was one of my singles opponents there. Me and Slam Dog did a lot of tag there. And, yeah, Donnie was fun. Donnie's a good dude.
NWA New England, obviously, you spent a lot of time there. One match in particular, you worked with the late, delicious Dave Vicious. Memories of working with Dave.
I worked with Dave a few times. Dave was a good dude. Dave was a monster. Dave should have been on TV, but he also was very kind. Not that match, but I wrestled him for Wrestling Star Wars. Now, little known thing, Knuckles didn't really care for me in the beginning, and Slam Dog Mercenary would break his balls to bring me in for Wrestling Star Wars. He did. And he was like, "Well, you got to put Dave over." Yeah, no problem. And he wanted a squash match, and Dave's like, "I'm not going to squash Zombie. We've wrestled before. Squash him." It's like, Dave, it's cool. Like, whatever. You're just like, more wants is what he wants. So we did a little bit more than a squash match. And I came back, and Dave made me look so good. It changed Knuckles' perspective on me. And then me and Knuckles became very good friends after that. Before that, it was a little tenuous relationship. But after that match, Knuckles saw that. Like, I do have to say, when I first came to NWA New England, I was still very green. I was probably 3 matches in when I started working for Tony Rumble for CWA. I was still learning. I was I don't want to say I was in over my head, but I still had a lot to learn. That's what Knuckles knew. That's what Knuckles saw. Like, green runs on me. So when he started running his own promotion, didn't realize that I've progressed since then, and he wasn't really fond of wanting to book me. And Slam Dog and Mercenary kept pushing it, and then again, same thing with NEW. Knuckles puts his belt on me. I beat Rick Fuller for his belt, so it went from I don't want to use him to you're my champion. Hard work pays off. And
And what,
Dave was fantastic. Dave was great. So, like I said, there's no reason that guy shouldn't have been on TV weekly.
and what was it like working with Knuckles once you guys started getting in the ring? I know Eric Sprasia and Knuckles, the Brotherhood, they teamed with against you at
Yeah.
one point.
So in the beginning, like I said, I was still green. So I was just, all right, New York Posse. There was 3 of us. Go jump to Brotherhood. There's 19 of them. I'm like, all right, little Larry, I'm going after him because I'm staying away from Tony with that helmet. I'm staying away from Sprasia because he's a monster, and Knuckles doesn't like me. So um, in the beginning, like I said, I was green, and I wish it was a few years later because we would have had better matches. But it was always Knuckles was the tough one, Sprague was the cool one.
Any memories
Which I'm
of
glad because Sprague was a monster.
right, big boy. Any memories of Danny Doring?
Danny Doring. I wrestled Danny. I love Danny. Another guy, just a sweetheart of a guy. I wrestled him for Jason, a hardcore match, and Danny's like, "I'm not a hardcore guy." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I'll do all the spots." So I had a barbed wire bat that I got from Axel Rotten, and I said, "I'll swing it. I'll pick it up. You duck, drop kick it. I'll eat it." I swung it. I pick it up, and I'm holding the handle, and the rest of the bat's on the ground. We look at each other and we dropped hold. So Jimmy dropped hold onto it so I could still eat it. But I'm like, ah, shit, thing broke. But Danny was fun. Danny's a cool guy. Danny was very cool.
Another cool opportunity, you'd find yourself in a tag team match for JAPW against the Haas brothers, Charlie and Russ. What was that like?
Another, cool guys, very cool guys. JPW, I really enjoyed wrestling for. Fat Frank was really cool. That's where I met Homicide and Danny, and Steve Mack, and Loki, and all those guys. Um, Haas Brothers was just so good. It's like such immensely talented guys. It's again, I was still somewhat green. I was not as green as I was with Sprague and Knuckles, but I wish I was a little more seasoned when I got to wrestle them. But they took care of me. They were great. They were definitely stars in the making.
Let's mention another great talent in the New England scene, the Rocket Fred Curry Jr.
Freddie, another one of my best friends. We had one match for Joe Rules, and it was in Guilford, Connecticut, and we were both so happy about it. We're like, that was because we did a double baby. And we're like, how are we going to do this? And we were so happy about it. And Jason watched it and he tore us up. We went from like, yeah, this is great. And Jason ripped us apart. Like, oh man, it sucked. But yeah, Freddie's great. I talk to him all the time still. And his brother, Michael, has now got a TikTok exploring the Curry family dynasty, which has been really good. If Michael was the one that did not want anything to do with wrestling, Nikki and Freddie did. Now, and their father is older age. Michael's now involved. He's documenting the family history. So if you're not following it, on TikTok and check it out. Uh, Michael's on there. Freddie's on there. I haven't seen Nikki pop on yet though.
Another mainstay here in the New England scene that you've worked with, Big Rick Fuller.
Rick's a monster. I love Rick. Luckily, he likes me because his chops are brutal, and only got a couple of them every time I worked for him. I'd watch him with other guys, just light him up the whole match, and thankfully, every time I worked him, I only got a couple of those ham hocks. Great guy, fantastic worker for a man his size.
You also got in there with WWF Hall of Famer Mr. USA, Tony Atlas.
So that was for Rumble, and Tony was trying out a new ring. It was one of those short to the ground rings, and the finish was going to be Tony does the press slam, and I give Tony a hip toss. He's like, brother, we're scratching the finish. Why? He's like, ring's too stiff. I'm like, I got it. He's like, no, no, no. He's like, we're going to change finish. I'm like, no, it's fine. We're talking through the match, and he does not want to give me the press slam onto this stiff ass ring. But me being a dumb kid, and I'm like, I'm not afraid to take anything. I took that press slam. It felt like I took a press slam to the ground. Um, I couldn't move. I was locked up. I had to hold the guardrail to bring myself back to the locker room. People thought I was selling. I couldn't move. I wish I listened to Tony. Maybe the guy's been wrestling for 40 years. I should have listened to, but I just wanted to show how tough I was, and that bit me in the ass. But Tony's always fun to be in the ring with. He's such a good dude.
One
Like
of
I
my
said,
personal. Oh, sorry.
there's very, very few people I've had interactions with that, and I'd like to say I can name one person I've had an interaction with, but I'm not going to put his name out there. Everybody else has always been super cool.
And one of my personal favorites that you actually teamed up with is Low Key. Went on to the WWE, of course, for a short run as Caval. Always a great talent, just a man of few words, but a great talent in the ring. What was it like working with him?
He's a funny dude. Like, he's always so serious. Always so serious. Like, he was homicide trained. I mean, the homicide's always like happy, fun, joking around. And Loki's always serious. We, Jose and I, it was a three-way, Jose, myself, and Homicide. And then at the end of the match, Steve Mack and Loki are going to jump us. And three of them are going to leave me and Jose laid out. And I was paired off with Loki, and he's going to do the stomp off the top rope. And I never took that before. I'm like, oh, this is going to be horrible. I laid there, and he's looking down. He's like, this is going to hurt. I'm like, oh. And he hit me, and it was great. I was like, oh, all right, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to get put through the mat, and he took care of me. And, very serious dude, but good guy. Um, always like he's always on. He's always low key, like just dead. I don't think I've ever seen him smile.
Yeah. NECW, you would also appear there, New England Championship Wrestling for Sheldon Goldberg. What was that experience like?
Love Sheldon, great guy, fantastic guy. When he first started running, his booker didn't care for me, so I didn't work for him in the beginning. Sheldon and I were friends. His booker and I, well, it was more, I guess, his booker's issue with me. I didn't have an issue with him. And when Kevin Kelly came in and took the book, he questioned, like, why is Ron Zombie not here? He's pretty much mainstay in New England. So he booked me, and I was working with Michael Sane a lot. And it's a lot of fun. Sane's always good. Sane's always fun. He's a big dude, and he doesn't mind to scrap. Uh, we had a fun match for NEW, which was a first blood match. Nova and Johnny Ace were there scouting Sid Vicious, so everybody wants to look their best at that time. And Sane and I had a first blood match, and on paper, the match was great. And 2 minutes into the match, his forehead collides with my eyebrow and busted open. So first blood match, we're less than 2 minutes into the match, and I'm bleeding. And he's like, what do we do? I'm like, I don't hit the ref. The ref doesn't see me bleeding. Can't stop the match. So we tried to salvage whatever we could for it. And I roll out of the ring. I go to Nova and I apologize. I'm like, look, man. And he's like, Chad, what are you going to do? I walk in the locker room. Lawler looks at me. He's like, you better go get that stitch. You're going to look like Terry Funk with a droopy eye. Go to the emergency room in Danbury, Connecticut. And I said, yeah, I was walking down the street. A cat jumped out of a tree. They're like, what? Stop kidding. I was wrestling down the road. Oh, those posters I saw. Yeah, those posters. Oh, wrestling's real. Yeah, it's real. Busted open. I'm here to get stitched up. I made everybody back at the bar afterwards, and Sid Vicious was so impressed that I came back after getting stitches. He bought me a drink.
Nice.
They didn't buy me anything for busting me open.
Right. Now, what is next for Ron Zombie? What can we expect?
I still play music with my bands, Nasty Disaster and Alcoholica. And my first goal is wrestle for 25 years. I did that. Then I said, well, let me hit big 3-0. So in 2 years, it'll be 30 years. That's why I'm going to have a retirement match. As long as, knock on wood, I stay healthy. I'm only taking a few bookings here and there right now just to stay healthy and say I'm still active.
Anywhere in particular that you would want that last match to be, or however it turns out?
I would love for it to be either Crosby for an AEW show or my old stomping grounds of East Haven. Mario runs down East Haven, Paul Roma. So I'd love to either be in Waterbury or East Haven, two places I've had a pretty good impact on.
Fast forward many years from now, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
Somebody who was very passionate about the business, somebody who gave everything, somebody who loved the fans, loved the business, loved every aspect of it, and respected it. And hopefully that respect came back, and it does. I'm very blessed. I am. Kid from East Haven High School that loved wrestling, that was able to live a dream. And did I wrestle Madison Square Garden? No, I did wrestle ECW Arena. And I got to wrestle some of my heroes, and I've got to. I've been in the ring with Sandman, Jack, Balls Mahoney, Just Incredible, Sabu, Stevie Richards, Blue Beanie, like who's who. I think basically everybody except for Van Dam and Shane Douglas. I think I've pretty much been in the ring with everybody from ECW, and it was great because anytime somebody booked somebody from ECW, they would call me to wrestle them. So I took that as a compliment.
Yeah.
And somebody that I still, even after getting into the ring, still want to get back. I still want to, participate in shows, in the back, out, setting up chairs, whatever you need me to do. I still want to be around wrestling because I still love wrestling.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for taking the time to be here this week.
So,
It's been a pleasure to
thank
have you.
you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do. You know, I don't. You're the unsung hero of New England. You do so much for New England wrestling. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. For Ron Zombie, I'm Joseph Bruen, and this has been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Leave us your comments. We'd love to hear back from you, the fans, who you'd like to see. Comment on this interview, what your favorite part was, and we will see you guys next time.